Hello everybody, it's Javier, that guy that looks like that tough guy meme from a few years back. So today I'm going to be reacting, responding to a very viral tweet that was made by the infamous Nick Gurley. The tweet was this: the Airbnb collapse is real. Revenue are 50% down, nearly 50% in cities like Phoenix and Austin. Watch out for the wave of forced selling from Airbnb owners later this year in areas hit hardest by the revenue collapse. Breaks down his thing. Now here's the thing. Doesn't necessarily say there's a market collapse happening in the tweets, but clearly we can say 4 days ago, Airbnb owners are about to sell, massive housing crash coming. That's why the lights are red, ladies and gentlemen, because the market crash is coming again. You know, when I look at things like this, I ask myself, what can I bring of value? I can actually bring you some actual local data from Phoenix, Arizona, and how these Airbnb listings are impacting buyers. And I can share some of my insights to kind of just give you guys a more realistic perspective. Because here's the thing, whenever I see a market prediction like this, the first thing I do is I research the person making it, okay? And when we're gonna if we research the person making this video, we can look at the videos, we can go back, and we can just go see a good idea of what's being posted, okay? Fed destroyed the housing market. Crash, 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 leaving YouTube, return to YouTube, crash, crash. So for many years now, the crash has been coming. The rates dropped, the housing crash is coming. 22 housing crash warning. The rates increase, there's a housing crash. So already, just always get a good idea of who you're dealing with when you first see a theory like this, okay? So now that we have that, we're not gonna allow ourselves to get emotional. We're not gonna get too crazy. We're not gonna get too wrapped up into it. Let's actually look at the data that's being presented. So first and foremost, the data is being collected from all the rooms, okay? So he's getting this data from all the rooms and he put it into these charts. So that's what we're looking at here. We're not looking at multiple verified sources. We're not looking at like some kind of major like news like saying this. There's one website who's doing this, and this is where he's getting the data from. So according to this, basically the situation is that there are 1 million Airbnb VRBO rentals, and there is only 570,000 homes for sale. So essentially the gist of it is there's going to be so many people that are going to let go of the Airbnbs and VRBOs. It's going to bring supply and increase it to such an extent that the housing market will crash. Massive housing crash coming. Ground zero for Airbnb collapses like this is Phoenix, where the short-term rentals, 18,000, are more than double the for sale listings. Mix the huge Airbnb supply with revenues down, you get a cocktail of massive for selling. Well, let's verify that. So first and foremost, is there 8,000 houses for sale? No, there's actually 11,346. And if you look at the coming soon, if we add that there's about 11,910. Okay, so 8,000 is not accurate. Now here's the thing. When these guys get data from the national source. So first thing I'm going to tell you, this isn't even a how-to video, but I'm going to make it a how-to video. When you're looking at predictions like this, always double check with your local data. And newbie Airbnb owners that bought over the last 1 or 2 years are in trouble. They got it at a high price. They have a high monthly payment and little margin for error. And some season ones are going to have more to work with. Now, here's the thing. I think anybody who bought a house over the last year for investment purposes, if they bought it for an Airbnb purpose, I hope that they plan for this, because yeah, if you bought over the last year, rates with the prices going down and rates high, you're in a bad spot. But the thing is, a lot of these folks bought over the last 5-10 years, and either they locked in two things. They locked in either a cheap rate or they locked in a lower price before the rates got really low. Let's talk about what happens when one of these Airbnb listings hits the market, because I actually have real life experience with this. So I had a client recently who was looking for a house in the Glendale, Arizona area, which is just right there in Phoenix. And we're looking up to $450,000, and we had this house come on the market that was really nice. So this house hits the market right in the area where they want, and it's for $420,000. Now, compared to the other $400,000 house, $420,000 houses in that area, this one had a very unique thing where it was just impeccably clean. Like, we saw houses that were just butt ugly. We saw ones that were remodeled cheaply. We saw ones that like looked really nice, but just there's always something off about them. And when we saw this listing, it was like in impeccable condition. And the amazing part of it too was that everything in the house was included. All of the furniture, beds even, like everything was included. The AC was impeccably maintained. It was just like, this was it. It was perfect. It was in a really good area. And it was crazy. Like that first weekend we saw it, there was multiple offers on it already. It was originally listed at $420. We offered $430, but I believe we asked for some concessions. I think it was like maybe 1% or 1.5% in concessions. And when we did our inspections, we didn't know there were some things that needed to get repaired, and we bumped up that number by like 0.5% around there. So we ended up getting about 2.5, I believe, percentage of concessions back to the buyer. So we bought it for $430,000. They didn't have to buy. This was like a first-time home buyer. They didn't have to buy any furniture. They were coming from their parents' house. This was perfect for them. And once we were buying it, that's when we discovered this was actually a former Airbnb. And that's why they were getting rid of it. And here's the thing, looking in this area now, there's been more sales in that 420 to 450 range that support the value. So we're getting that little bit of that positive equity in that area. Whenever there is a Airbnb listing that hits the market in in an area, especially that's priced correctly, it sells like crazy. It's like, it doesn't compare with the other. It's like if I give you a cup of coffee that's a K cup versus something that's like brewed, like something that's like with the Chemex. I'm really into Chemex right now. The idea when I saw this headline that the Airbnb listings are going to crash the market, honestly, like I kind of, this is nice. I that would be great if like half of the listings that we have were Airbnb listings. Those things would sell so quick. But here's the thing, they have to be priced reasonably. There's another Airbnb listing that I saw that my client just made an offer on. It's currently, I think, but they listed it for like $480. And houses in those areas are selling for like $440, $460-ish. So it's overpriced, but we offered, $450, $460, and they just flat out rejected us. Now, what's the difference between that listing and the previous listing? Is it the fact that it was an Airbnb? Well, no. The fact is the seller is being unreasonable with what they priced at. So it's not what the previous history of a listing that's going to cause a crash. It's going to be what people price it at. And what are people willing to pay for that? So even this overpriced listing that's an former Airbnb that doesn't have any offers, that rejected our low offer, they bought the house like I think it was 6 years ago. They, I think, bought it for like half of the price. So they have a ton of equity there. They have the ability to wait, and they have the ability, if they sell it for $50K more, for $40K less or whatever, it shouldn't hurt them, right? So we're going to give them some time, and probably after a month or two, they'll probably talk to us again. There can be 100 Airbnb listings that hits the market this weekend. If they're all reasonably priced, they're not only going to sell quickly, but they're going to contribute to an increase of value in the areas that they sell at, because people are going to, right now there's a lot of people looking for a house. I know everyone's telling you the market's crashing, but I'm someone who represents buyers in all types of prices here in the Phoenix, West Valley, East Valley. I'm all over the place. It is hard to buy right now. It's competitive, and it's when there's a nice house that comes out that's reasonably priced, it sells quick and it sells for more. So, but if there's 100 Airbnb listings that hit that are overpriced and they're basically clogging the value, then I can see how that can start a rollover effect. So in this time, I'm reminded of a response on one of these tweets, which if you don't follow this guy, I highly, highly recommend you do. His name is Logan Mothashami. And I recommend everyone here follow him because he works with the Housing Wire. He's also seeing the data, but he provides you an alternative perspective. I'm not saying there's one person that's right and one person that's wrong, but when if you're going to listen to doom posters and just post nothing but negative things, you want to also listen to the other side of people who are maybe not seeing the negative aspect of everything. And in his reaction here, which he's been posting a lot since I see it last night. Remember, if we have an Airbnb bust, it will show up in the new listing data so far in 2023. The lowest new listing data ever recorded in U.S. history. Let the data come to you first. Let it stick with duration before the bust happens. So he is showing Altos Research's basically inventory data where it's showing it's still on the lower end. New listing data at its all-time lows. The total active listings are all-time lows, and this is equals a bust. And I think he highlights this tweet here by Jamie Lane, a viral tweet about STR data. Let's get some facts straight. This is not a collapse of RevPal. Is it down in 2023? Yes. Is it down 40%? No. Someone else pulled also numbers, and they're not the same. So we're going to have the doom posters always say something negative. We're going to have the people that are be positive saying things are great and always buy. There's always going to be people telling you what to buy, not to buy, telling you to buy. Everyone has a bias, including me. Right now, if you are looking into like buying something for yourself, I'm going to tell you what I always tell you. Make sure you have your shit together first before, who cares what all of these people are saying, okay? You need to own where you live, and you should not be buying unless you have your emergency savings down, unless you have your credit in order, unless you have your budget and your finances finely tuned. And only then you can check and see if you have the ability to qualify and you buy intelligently. How you do that, of course, we can talk here for another 20 minutes if you guys have the time to do that, but I'm going to tell you guys once again, take a deep breath, look at the data, look at the opposite data, follow multiple sources, and really just chill.